underway, and here it goes. And Hans, with the white pieces, he's back to what we've seen thus far. So I'm not sure what he actually views as his greatest strength in this match, but if it's in this opening, thus far it really hasn't worked out.
Well, he's going back to it, and so he looked at it at the break, decided not to go away from it, wants to give us a theoretical battle in the Italian, in the gioco piano. I don't even know what to call the transpositions anymore. Chess.com ECO says gioco piano.
And it was Magnus. He didn't put his knight on d4.
He changed first.
And actually, that's a good transition for Hans because he was able to press his b-pawn forward. There otherwise would have been a pin along this diagonal. So he gets both of these moves in. It's not like black is in huge danger, but this is a small little plus for Hans.
Yeah, it is. I like it. I like it. Magnus changed first, but Hans has also kept pace. He actually has more time than he started with. So shout out to Hans. If this is what you're looking for, it's now, right? Let's go. Get a victory in the 3-1 portion. He's played fast so far, although, again, the truth is we're almost at move 20. Both players are playing pretty fast right now.
Yeah, the lead on the clock is quite minimal considering how much has happened, and we see a ton of tension. These pawns are staring at one another, and we could just see, poof, the whole queen side evaporate, go off the board. This knight on f5, Danny, that is a great piece, and I do think that Magnus needs to keep his eye out for it, but wow, a4 played by Hans. He's just trying to explode the queen side.
Well, it's partly because he didn't want to take on b5. I don't know if we can back up or not, but the point was that if it exploded, as you said, the a2 pawn would have been falling at the end, and they're playing so fast, maybe it doesn't matter. So I think Hans was trying to solve that problem, to his credit. But now he's going to be strapped with both an a4 and a c4 pawn that are weak. And
he can take, and he could have at least a second ago taken this bishop on d4, but we've already seen what Magnus is capable of despite those double isolated pawns in the center. The knight can actually outclass a bishop. So knight takes d4 now is a real threat. The pawn can take back, of course, after the knight captures, but that's a pawn hanging in the center of the board. Still some weaknesses for white to deal with. Pawns on light squares can't be defended by a dark square bishop. So I do think that both sides have little things that they can be happy with, but now is a big moment for Magnus. Does he retreat the bishop? Does he allow white to take it? Not an easy decision.
Yeah, not an easy decision at all. And Magnus doesn't have an easy decision right now. d6 is weak. He's also having to calculate those tactics of the knight capturing on d4. He has to decide if he wants to use that rook on e6 for more aggressive intentions, sliding over to g6 and seeing what the doctor ordered over there on the G file, or does he play a piece to C5, whether bishop or knight, to kind of just get out of the way and try to defend these threats? I think this is an evil eval bar. Okay, he does play the move I suggested there, but I thought this was an evil eval bar moment. I feel like that was a harder position to solve than it looked close to equal, and Magnus seems to have made a good choice.
Yeah, I don't think the players look at this like it's just equal. They don't think about it in terms of numbers like the evaluation bar does.
Yeah.
They're looking at this position saying, okay, that's an isolated pawn that I can attack if my knight gets to c5. That's a pawn on c4. Can't be protected by another pawn. That's the issue with isolated pawns, is they can't be defended by their best friends, aka another pawn. So that's what Magnus is going for. And Hans, on the other end, he could plant a queen on d5 at the right moment. Queen takes a5. Excuse me, isn't that a free pawn? Maybe he's just trying to loosen up the defense of this d6 pawn, or trying to get his queen to g4. He's playing tricky chess. Yep. The queen needs to stay here to cover e7. It's queen g4, rook g6, knight e7 is currently covered, but not if the queen were to leave d8.
By the way, the highlight of a potential fork just made me realize we have seen very few forks in this match today, actually. We haven't seen a ton of blunders there, but that would be our first big fork if somehow Magnus blundered. a5, a very good move by Hans. And again, look at the clock. This is what Hans has been doing well for the most part in the match. I know the score doesn't look good for him, but in games where he's felt in control, it's been because he got an edge on the clock and then stayed with it, and he needs to do that here more than ever.
Fantastic move, a5. You can see Magnus, he is really using his time, and queen g4.
He's sacking the exchange. Look at that. Hans peers in and goes, what are you doing there? You're going to give me the exchange? Okay.
What a decision there from Magnus Carlsen, giving up his rook for a knight and a pawn. That is a beautiful pony, though, on an outpost. It hits e4. Maybe it can jump into position. And don't count out this little a-pawn that could. Yeah. That can get to the other side.
What a practical choice. And he's done that a couple times now. If you're just tuning in the first game, Magnus had his back against the wall and sacrificed the exchange. Ultimately, he turned it around and got the dub. Here, Magnus, under some pressure, sacrifices the exchange, and I just think he really has his practical wits about him today.
It's the sign of a champion. When things look like they're getting out of control, you may give up a little bit of material so you can breathe a little more easily. And if this knight gets to d4, we're not talking about being an exchange down. We're talking about how strong the pony is.
Yep.
But look at Hans, queen d5, taking control of the e6 square. If that knight ever moves, the rook slams down on b7. So look at the time, look at the position. I think Hans has good chances, but he needs to find a plan.
No, objectively, Hans has great chances. And again, he's up on the clock still as both players enter time pressure. Wow, the 3-minute portion just changes things up. Like, here we go. We're already down to seconds here, everybody. You called the A-pawn running. Magnus is going to try to sit tight. Note how important that knight is right where it is, Robert.
But I'm drawing the arrows.
You are. You see the 8th rank, and you like it.
I see an attack. That king on h7 does not have much in the way of defense. So rook to b8, threatening queen g8 checkmate. That looks like a problem. So, Danny, this is actually quite tricky, and I'm looking at the clock.
Ooh,
Magnus...
Wait, allows rook b8?
He's allowing it because
b8.
Queen f7 doesn't really seem to get the job, and you swap. Oh, it's queen a instead.
Even better. Oh, mate on h8. Very nice, Hans. Rook h8 is coming. And actually, I don't think he can stop it.
How do you deal with this? And also the a3 pawn is just loose. So queen f7 played. If rook to b8...
He's going to play g5, and now there's no h5. That was the idea.
And the king can
get out. Magnus is stopping h5. He'll play g5 if the rook enters the 8th rank. This would be what you need. Camp Hans Niemann, get the first win in the 3-minute portion, would be how you drew it up. Can he convert?
There's something really annoying, though, about this position because it looks like white should just be easily winning, and yet you see there's a rook and queen barreling down on f2. The c4 pawn is loose. e4 could be in trouble, and there isn't a checkmate. That's one check. The king slides up to g6, so take this pawn. Wow, is he have queen e8?
He's got queen e8, and if rook f7, rook f8. I think Hans calculated it.
That's beautiful calculation.
Oh, by the way, there's queen d1, and is there a draw with queen d1, king h2?
Oh, wow, that was something. We have to look at that after this game concludes. Magnus and Hans both in time trouble, and here is a third piece on the last rank. That's just a mate against...
Oh, wait, there was a rook on b1. Okay, I hallucinated a perpetual. Okay, but Hans Niemann had no hallucinations in that game, and he gets a victory.